Okay, so we were in chapter 4, Jnana Yoga. Before that, let us pay obeisance to Sri Radha Govinda. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Nananjana-shalakaya Chakshurmitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manabhishtam Sthapitam Mena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadate Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavscha Shri Rupam Sagarajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vittam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakana Vittamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dino Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatrabhyascha Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patitam Nam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschadesha Tarine Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So, what we were looking at was the transcendental knowledge which the Lord is talking about in this chapter. Why did he talk about that? Because in chapter 3, and towards the end, when Arjuna asks, what is that force which is making me to do sinful activities? So, though I know everything, whatever you're talking, but still something is forcing me. So then the Lord says it is the lust. Lust is your enemy, and it is residing in your mind, senses, and intelligence. That is a seating place. So, and though your senses are superior to your matter, whereas mind is superior to your senses, intelligence is superior to mind, and the soul is superior. But still, because of the lusty desires, which is repository there, your tendency to do sinful action takes place, right? So, how to come over it? He says only by spiritual intelligence. And for that, you need to have spiritual knowledge, transcendental knowledge. That's how he begins this chapter with telling about the knowledge. And this knowledge he has given right from the beginning of the creation itself. He gave it to Lord Brahma. Through his heart, he gave the Vedic knowledge. Everything he had given there. And that has been passed down by disciplic succession, by parampara praptam. And he has given, and we saw the timeline, like 120 million years ago, he had given to the sun god, who gave it to Manu, and then Manu gave it to Ikshvaku, and that's how it came to the earth 2 million years ago. Okay, that is a legacy which we had. But what happens? Why he is to come give this knowledge? Because the knowledge, as it's an eternal, right? But still it gets disturbed. People do not understand, go down the line, and they take to religious places. So he has to come yuga to establish. So that's what we saw. And now we are going to look at section 2. The Krishna is the goal of all paths, and the Varnashrama system. Then Karma Yoga. Then about the sacrifices and how to get this knowledge, right? And what is the power of this knowledge we are going to see in this. So this graph is, we saw, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivaswan, and Vivaswan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and in turn he instructed to its work. That's what we saw. And how it has come down by sampradayas. There are 4 sampradayas, parampara. Through Lord Brahma gave it to Narada, and then come, and we have Madhvacharya as a prominent acharya. And from Sri Lakshmi Parampara, you have Ramanujacharya, And Rudra Pampara, we have Vishnu Swami and Nimbakacharya for 4 Kumaras. These two have spread quite a bit, whereas they are there, these Sampradayas, but they are not so prominent like the other two. Right? And we come under the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya by Madhva Puri, Madhvendra Puri. Okay, Vasudev Madhva. And what is the benefit of knowing Krishna? So he says, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tektva deham puna janma naiti mam etis. So you won't take birth again. If you understand my appearance and the activities does not, upon leaving the body, he need to take the birth again. He attains my eternal bodhi. So this is the benefit of knowing. And when does he come? And also, there's a nice example, like this was in the 8th century, I think. Melatho Narayana Bhattadari was a great devotee, and he composed Narayana, 1034 verses, summarizing Bhagavad, Srimad Bhagavad Puranam, okay, in 1586 AD. That was age of 2. Because he was suffering from some severe arthritis and he couldn't bear it. In fact, it was his guru who was suffering it. Then he prayed to Lord and said, the guru is so old and he can't bear this thing. I wish I had. You should have given it to me, at least then the guru will. So he gets the disease. But that becomes very unbearable for him after a year or so. He found it very thing. And then later he got a instruction from one of the devotees saying, why don't you talk about thing about the Lord? So that time he composed this Narayan. It was all praising the Lord. By doing that, he was able to, and by the time he finished his 100th Dasakam, that Narayanam composing in Guruvayur, he was cured and he lived up to the age of 96. So the person who knows this transcendental nature of appearance and actors need not take his birth again. This is the purpose of benefit of knowing the Lord. And then should be received by disciplic succession and receives the truth about Krishna's form, birth, and things. One who takes shelter of Krishna becomes purified and attains Krishna, right? So, and why does he come? And he says, no, I come yuga. Why? Because for his devotees. And also to the miscreants, and then to establish dharma, because it has been misused, irreligious thing. So he comes again and again to re-establish. And then who has benefited by this is people who are free from raga, attachment, fear, and anger. We saw that. And then they get purified and liberated. Okay. So it is not, and you might say that the Lord appears only in Indian soil. No, the Prabhupada says he can manifest himself anywhere and everywhere, as he depends on his desire to appear. In each and every incarnation, he speaks as much about religion that can be understood to the particular people under that particular circumstance. But the mission is same, to lead people to God, okay, and obedience to the principles of religion. Sometimes he'll come personally, and sometimes he'll send his representative. It need not be only in India, it could be in anywhere, okay, as a servant or himself. But all the mission of this religion is to lead people to the Lord. So actually, we know about the Dashavatara, no? So I just put this information. Satyuga, we have the 4 avatars of Vishnu, Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Narsimha. Then in Treta Yuga, we had Vamana, Parashrama, and Rama. And Dwapara Yuga, it was Krishna and Balarama. Kali Yuga, we have Buddha, and Kalki will come to. So, but one thing which you need to know is, when they have in the Satyuga, Varahadev and Inaksham, they were at different planets. Okay. Whereas Rama and Ravana, if you look at, they were in different countries. Whereas Dwapara, Pandavas and Kauravas, they were the same family. But in Kali Yuga, what happens? It is within each individual, you have the divine qualities as well as demon qualities. So we have the same person which we are trying to fight. Okay, this is somewhat observation. So how do you apply this transcendental knowledge? So that is what is covered in 4.11 and 4.15 verses. By hearing about Krishna, many persons in the past became purified and attained love for Krishna. They attained love for Krishna because this was their desire and Krishna fulfilled. So it all depends upon our desire. It's because of our desire and Krishna being inside us as Paramatma, he fulfills it. Whether you want to forget him and do it or you want to remember him, whatever we desire, that's what we get and we deserve it. Okay. Suppose someone takes shelter of Krishna with something other than a desire to achieve transcendental love. What happens? So that is what we are going to see now. Okay. So Krishna explains that his reciprocation will be depending upon the soul, to the what degree they surrender to him. Yata mam prapadante tam tataiva bhajami aham mama vartaman vartante manushya pata sarvasha. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of. So it all depends on how we surrender to the Lord. And what inertia, there are so much, we are so lazy to go towards him, okay? That inertia is there with us. So we don't want, because of our ego we have, false ego. So he says, depending on the degree of surrender, I reward them accordingly. So if you approach to him, he will approach to us. But if you don't go to him, what does he do? He says, okay, you don't want to come to me, you be away from me. So it depends on us. So he says, everyone follows my path in all respects. What does he mean that? So there are 3 levels of understanding the Lord, right? That is, we understand him as a Brahman realization, which we saw there, that is a thing, or as a Paramatma who resides in us, or the other higher level is to understand him completely as a Bhagavan. So depending on that, this is how our degree of surrender would be. So Krishna, the purport preparates that everyone is looking for Krishna in different aspects of his manifestation. Okay. Krishna is object of everyone's realization. Whether he's an atheist also will be thinking there's no God, right? So that is also a thinking. So the fruity workers will look at him for some material benefits. So they look at Lord as the Yagneshwara. They'll do a lot of yagnas and all for certain material benefits. Whereas impersonalists, they want to merge into his Jyoti. Brahma Jyoti is the Jyoti from him. And whereas yogis, they want the mystic powers. Whereas devotees want to just serve him and all different rasas, whether it is Vatsalya rasa or Sakya rasa. So everyone depends on Krishna's mercy for success. And because this is how, because it's the Lord who sanctions everything. On all kind of spiritual process are but different degrees of success. It's not that you have different paths to reach him. This is only one path and it depends on where you are. Like, ladder is there. Which rung on the ladder you are, either in the first rung or you have progressed quite a bit. It's the same path. Okay. So without coming, so unless we come to Krishna consciousness, it's not perfection. And then now he tells, okay, now he says to what degree? And why don't people go to him? Isn't it? When he says to Arjuna that depending on the degree of surrender, I reciprocate. Now he is giving the reason why some people don't come to him directly. Why? So here in this verse, he says, men in this world desire success in fruitive activities. And therefore, they worship the demigods. Quickly, of course, men get results from fruitive work in this world. Because they want it fast. They want the fruitive results very fast. So what do? They worship the demigods. But what happens? Why don't they worship the Lord? But Lord won't immediately sanction because he will see what is the day and he will try to purify their desires and then only he will sanction. He won't immediately sanction. Whereas the demigods, they are the servants. So their duty is to take care of this and whatever thing, and they, of course, they are the devotees of the Lord and they are given certain responsibilities here to manage this universe. So, but because the fruitive man, they worship him, they quickly get the results. So that is the reason they worship the demigods. So Krishna says, Krishna understands. He says this is the reason they wanted fortune. So demigods are not different forms of God, but they are God's different parts of parcels. So delegated with different grace of powers to manage this material world. Okay. So they are Nitya Nitya. God is one, Ishvara. So these demigods are living entities, but cannot be equal to Supreme God. The Narayana, Vishnu, or Krishna. Okay. That we should be very clear. And one who thinks that God and demigods are same is called an atheist, a partial. Even greatest demigod Brahma and Shiva worship the Lord Narayana, right? And they cannot give you liberation. It's only Vishnu or Krishna who can give you the liberation from this material world. So the Narayan, they don't know, Vishnu, I think they do not belong to this world. Results obtained through demigods are temporary, meant for less intelligent persons, because they can't understand that our real purpose of life is to go back to the Lord Krishna. But they want the immediate benefits here. So demigods are worshipped for temporary material opulence of this material world. Demigods as well as their worshippers will vanish with the annihilation of the material. So they don't understand that once this whole thing gets annihilated, then everything is lost. Or when you lose this, take another birth, whatever you have got the benefits from the demigods, devatas, it will be lost. Again, you have to start from red one, right? So it's all temporary. So what is the difference between the demigods and Krishna? The demigods always worship Supreme. They know they are their obedient servants. And they are created by the Supreme. They exist within the material nature. They are delegated with different various grades of power to manage the affairs of the universe, right? And they subordinate to the will. And whatever they sanction, it will be after getting the approval from the Supreme Lord. And they have material bodies and subject to birth, old age, disease, and death. Though age might be very long, not like us for 100 years or anything. It could be very long. But they have to go through these 4 cycles. And they come under the influence of the 3 material, most different exes. Whereas the Lord is one. He is supreme whole and is supremely worshipable. He is a creator and beyond material contradiction. And he is a supreme controller, supremely independent, because these people are subordinate to the will. Completely spiritual body, no birth, death, anything. He is eternal and completely beyond the influence of 3 modes of nature. He is eternally the same, Supreme Lord. So we should keep this in mind when we look at demigods. And see, now the Lord said, okay, these people don't come to me. Why? Because they are like, they want fruitive results. So they go to the demigods because they can get it immediately. But I have created a good system. It's not that once you have put them in the world, there's no system. There is a system called Varnashram system. Chaturvarnyam Maya Ashram, Guna Karma Vibhagasha, Tasya Kartaram Abhimam, Vidya Akkartam Abhyayam. That is, according to the 3 modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the 4 divisions of human society are created by me. So they has created 4 divisions: Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras. Okay. And what are they? It's not according to the birth that they become a Brahmana or a Kshatriya or anything. It all depends upon their guna, Chaturvarnyam Maya system, guna karma. That means guna means their nature, their attitude towards the work. What is the attitude? And karma is their aptitude to do that work. They have the tendency to do the work. So what is the work the Brahmanas do? They educate. They give the knowledge. Whereas the Kshatriyas, they are the ones who manage, who rule the thing, or rule the governing system. And Vaishyas are the ones who supply. They are the business people who supply the goods and who do the business. And whereas the Sudras are the ones who serve. And all these 4 varnas, we need them in a society. We need all the 4. It's not that we can have a system with only Brahmanas. No, we need all the 4 kinds of people. So, and they have to, jivas living have to choose their occupation and the thing depending on their modes of their guna and the karma. they have to choose. And what ashrama they will be, whether they are in brahmacharya or kshatriya, grahastha, or the vanaprastha or sannyas. That is a different ashrama. But varna is depending on their guna and karma. So, although I am the creator of the system, you should know that I am at the non-doer being and change. See, he creates, but he's not involved in the whole. He doesn't choose you to become the Kshatriya. He doesn't think. It is our nature, the way we have a tendency. So that is what depends on that. Okay. So he does not belong to any of these classes because he's a creator and he's not a conditioned soul. And the dharma depends on division is based on guna and karma, right? And brahmanas are mostly in the mode of goodness, and kshatriya is the mode of passion, whereas vaishyas are in the mode of passion and ignorance. Sudra is mostly in the mode of ignorance. And Lord talks about their qualities more in the chapter 18. Okay. And Vaishnavas are higher than Brahmanas. Why? For them, they're not supposed to know Brahman, the supreme absolute truth, and most of them, they are beyond. They are eternal devotees of the Lord. Okay. And they have all the knowledge and they are beyond, they are always in the Shuddha Sattva. Okay. So why he has created this system is so that we systematically develop Krishna consciousness by working in a cooperative manner. We work together in a coordinate manner. It's not that we try to exploit the others. Okay, we have to work in a coordinate manner and develop Krishna consciousness. Doesn't matter whether you're a Shudra or a Brahmana thing, all can develop Krishna consciousness. To develop Krishna consciousness doesn't depend on your which varna you're in this varnashram system. Okay, it only depends on your devotion and for the Lord. Okay, so the purpose of this system is you elevate from the animal status to human status. People could purify themselves by regulating their desires. Process of purification, materials inhibit from directly approaching Krishna. So, this is all about Varnashram system. Krishna, who is a non-doer, is a mixture guna from 3 modes plus work associated to avoid degradation, to protect, and to support. And it's for cooperation, not for discrimination. You don't think. Okay. And what are the ashramas the brahmanas can occupy? They'll start with the brahmachari, they can take up grahastha, or they can go straight away to sannyas. If they have taken to grahastha ashram, then they, after 60 years or so, they can take up the vanaprastha, giving their family responsibilities to their children, wife and thing. And they take up vanaprastha and later go to grahastha. Whereas ashrama for kshatriyas is brahmachari, they'll be in the gurukul, trained by the gurus. Then they'll take up grahastha. They don't take up sannyas, okay, and go to vanaprastha. Whereas for vaishyas is brahmachari and grahastha. They don't go for sannyas. Shudras is grahastha. So this is how the system was working in the Vedic system. And what I like to tell you is when we say the gunas, and whereas in chapter 3, in the last chapter, we said in the verse 27, where it says, the soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are actually carried out by the dreams. Where we are telling the jiva is not the actual doer, but he only initiates the activity, but it is carried out by the 3 modes of nature. Okay, so that you should understand that he is not because there are so many other causes. You might have started the activity, but like, if you're sowing the seed in the field, the seed was given by the Lord. The earth is given by the Lord, the soil, the water by the Lord, sun. So there are other factors which have been caused for the result. So he is not the only doer, right? So for that, when we should understand the context in which the Lord was talking that. So here he was trying to teach us the humility. We have to be humble with that. We are not the cause of all the results we have got, right? So, but here when he's talking about this Chaturvarnya system, he's trying to tell us, here again he mentions that according to 3 modes of nature, work associated are created by me, and I'm not the non-doer. Here he says he is the do. I mean, through him is the cause where you get all the other facilities. Here the system was not created by him. Here he is trying to tell us the accountability to whatever work they have taken. See, actually today's system, no, though we don't have this Varnashram system, a modern system, also we have some intellectual class, there's a ruling class, administrative class, and there's a, what do you call, the business class, and then you have the service, people who are serving the others, right? But each class, they try to exploit the others, the capitalist, that in business, they want to exploit the workers level. Whereas the communists, they are trying to exploit by political thing, they want to exploit these workers. So they have exploitation is going on, but they are not working in a, not the system which was great. But you have something like that. And there was no caste system, but it was developed by the people who want to exploit. Okay, so they go by their birth. Actually, the Varnashram system doesn't say by birth; it's only by guna and karma, right? Here, and without knowing that, what happens when we are choosing our careers, we don't look at our nature. If we want some, we go by what is the trend, what is the expected by the others, the society want to look at, and like that, if you choose our career, and then finally we might end up with dissatisfaction. So if you take up a career which you have the aptitude for it and the attitude for it, then that is the profession for you. Then you will be more happy and work it. So you see that all these aspects are coming out here in Bhagavad Gita. And why? If you work with the knowledge of Krishna, that is what is this chapter is about. If nothing, then you'll be able to understand what we are talking in chapter 5. So here, chapter 3, the Lord said, you work for me. And why for him? And what about him? We are learning in this chapter about the Lord. Okay. So, and then he continues to say, there is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in the fruitive reactions of work. Okay, let us see what is there with the purport. Hare Krishna, anyone can volunteer for the purport as there are constitutional laws. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes, Mataji, go ahead.
As there are constitutional laws in the material world stating that the king can do no wrong or that the king is not subject to the state laws. Similarly, the Lord, although he is the creator of this material world, is not affected by the activities of the material world. He creates and remains aloof from the creation, whereas the living entities are entangled in the fruitive results of material activities because of their propensities for lording in it over material resources. The proprietor of an establishment is not responsible for the right and wrong activities of the worker, but the workers are themselves responsible. The living entities are entangled in their
Engaged.
Hare Krishna Mataji by mistake. The living entities are engaged in their respective activities of sense gratification, and these activities are not obtained by the Lord. For advancement of sense gratification, the living entities engage in the work of this world, and they aspire to heavenly happiness after death. The Lord, being full in himself, has no attraction for so-called heavenly happiness. The heavenly demigods are only his engaged servants. The proprietor never desired the low-grade happiness such as the worker may desire. He is aloof from the material actions and reactions. For example, the rains are not responsible for different types of vegetation that appear on the earth, although without such rain, there is no possibility of vegetative growth. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Mataji. Hare Krishna. So here Prabhupada gives a very good analogy. Like he says, the rains are not responsible for different types of vegetation appear on the earth. Although without rains, there is no possibility of vegetable. So the Lord has created this material, but he is not responsible for the activities what the jiva does, right? So like and also he says the proprietor of an establishment is not responsible for the right and wrong activities of the workers. So clearly says that entanglement is the responsibilities is ours. He has made it, but he is not responsible. He says no, it does not become entangled in the fruitive reactions of it. So we have to understand this. See? So in the material creation, the Lord is only the supreme cause. The immediate cause is the material nature by which the cosmic manifestation is made visible. See, when we desire to do something, we have to and the actions will be carried out by the body we have, isn't it? Without this gross body, we cannot act. Same way. So we just by thinking we cannot do. Just by desiring we cannot enact. So it has to be done through the gross body, and the gross body and all these things are under his control. Is the material nature. So the created beings are of many varieties, such as demigods, human beings, and lowlands. All of them are subject to the reactions of their past good and bad activities. The Lord only gives the facilities for such activities and the regulations of modes of nature. So, but he is never responsible for the past and present activities. So this is confirmed. So this is what he's trying to tell us. So in other words, the one who understands this nature of the Lord is an experienced man in Krishna consciousness. And then is not subject to the law. So we have to understand this, that he has created and he is aloof. It's not that we can blame everything on the Lord. We are responsible for that. So, and if we know this knowledge, then he says he is liberated and is fixed in Krishna consciousness. So this is what we are trying to understand. And here, and when he was here as Krishna, he enacted all the four varnas. Like, he was like a Sudra, he was like a chariot driver, he was a Vaishya when he was in Vrindavan. And then as a Kshatriya in the battlefield, he took up the thing too. When Bhishma Dev was was fighting ferociously with Arjuna, then he broke the promise and he took the arms. And as a Brahmana, when he was treating Sudama. So he can take any role. For him is not that. That means there's no work. But one who understands this truth about me does not become entangled in the fruitive reactions of work. This is the benefit. So he's the creator, he's not a victim. This is what we read in the purport. He's never partial to any living entity. He's never subjected to the Krishna conscious person. He's never subject to the laws of karma. And then all the liberated souls in ancient times acted with this understanding of my transcendental nature. Therefore, you should perform your duty following in their footsteps. So he says, as the previous acharyas have done, they followed this thing. So you should follow in their footsteps. That's what the Lord says. Now, clearly he's giving us the knowledge how to go about. Then, see, last chapter also he talked about Karma Yoga. But now he's telling us, again, he gives us a more elaboration on karma on the platform of Nyaya. So, 4.16, it talks about transcendental knowledge helps one to clear up philosophical doubts. It also helps to clear up karmic back balance. It burns the karma. That is our karmic reactions. We have done papa means there will be some reactions. If you have done punya, there will be pious. That also there will be a reaction. In one you might enjoy, in another you might suffer, but still there will be reactions in it. Okay. And karma is a universal law of nature. For every action, there is a reaction. Bad karma is obviously undesirable, but Krishna explains that even good karma should be avoided. Because why it should be avoided? We still be bound in this material nature. Okay, we might have done punya and all that, and we might go to higher planets, to other planets. But again, after once our credit gets over, we have to come back to this Mrityaloka. Again, we have to come back here. There you can't be there permanently. Once your credit is over, you have to come back. Or if you go to lower planets and finish the thing, you come back here. So this is what he says. Even good karma should be avoided because you are still bounded to this material world. And our purpose in life is to get liberated from this material world, liberated from the birth, death cycle. So we don't want to get caught in that cycle, right? So here in this verse, Krishna is telling us that even good karma should be avoided. And beyond good and bad is a spiritual level, where there is no action or reaction. That is called as akarma. So we have karma, we have vikarma, and then we have akarma. Akarma means which doesn't give any reaction because that is a spiritual activities. So actions which are performed in terms of one's prescribed duties, as mentioned revealed scriptures, is known as karma, right? Actions which are performed by the misuse of one's freedom, which direct one to lower life, is known as vikar. That is bad actions, punya. Actions which free from one from the cycle of birth and death is karma. So this is the law of karma, right? There will be some action, whether there's an equal or opposite, right? So, kim karma kim akarmeti kavayo api atra mohita tatte karma pravakshami mokshasi hasva. Even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action, what is inaction. Now I shall explain to you what action is, knowing which you shall be liberated from all misery. So he says it's not that very difficult to understand what is the thing. So then the intricacies of action are very difficult to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. So, Krishna conscious person, one has to follow the leadership of authorized persons in the disciplic section. Brahma, that is what he says, that you follow the footsteps of the previous acharyas. We should follow our acharyas. These are the Prajapatis who have got liberated by understanding. So, like Lord Brahma, Shiva, Narada, Manu, Kumaras, Kapila, Prahalada, Bhishma, Sukadev are all without mental speculation. So, system of Krishna consciousness was first narrated to Sun God. The Sun God told it to Sun Manu. Manu explained to Shiksha. The system is current on thing from a remote time. So we have to follow what the thing. So now Lord decided to instruct Arjuna about Krishna consciousness. So because of this instruction of the Lord to Arjuna, anyone who follows in the footsteps of Arjuna will not be bewildered. So only action performed in Krishna consciousness can deliver a person from the entanglement of material existence. If you are serious about liberation from material bondage, then we have to understand this difference. What do you mean by karma, vikarma, and akarma? So we have to, Krishna consciousness, one has to perform actions knowing his relationship with the Supreme Lord. Because we are the eternal servitor. We are the eternal, we should know our constitution position. Okay? Because we have forgotten and we wanted to enjoy ourselves independently, so only the Lord has given this material world, right? But unless we understand that we are his eternal servitor, that we are there to serve him, that is our Sanatana Dharma, then only we think. So other actions are vikarams. So this is what, if one doesn't follow the Vedas, a risk of going to the thing is not appreciated by Satan, it defeats the purpose of life. Whereas karmis, they will follow the Vedas piously, they will go to even the heavenly planets, but they have to return to Matyaloka after the credit is over. Whereas akarmas, knowing that they come to the platform of devotional service to the Lord. So, going to transcendental knowledge is finally we have to do their devotional service to the Lord. Okay? And these people know that fruitive act is binds and means repetition. So they won't do that. They will work for the Lord. Best example is Narada Muni. So one who sees in, and this is something which very कर्माणि अकर्मया पश्यत् अकर्मणि च कर्मया स बुद्धिमान मनुष्येषु युक्त कृष्ण कर्म. One who sees inaction in action and action in action is intelligent among men and is transcendental position, although engaged in also. So this is something like, the word inaction and things. So we should understand clearly what we mean by that. If a Krishna conscious person is intelligent, though he is engaged in all sort of activities, he does not suffer or enjoy any of the effects because he is doing it for the Lord. When you do all the work for the Lord, then whether success or failure, you leave it to him. You don't bother about that. So he is free from the bonds of karma, as all his activities are performed for the Lord. Akarma means without reaction to work. Whereas the impersonal people, they will cease fruitive activities because they are scared. If I do something, I think this, so they'll try to avoid doing fruitive activities. So the resultant action is they become a stumbling block on the path of realization. So not doing karma also, you will not be on the path of self-realization. Person is aware that he is eternal servitor of the Lord. So he engages himself in Krishna conscious activities. So as everything is done for Krishna, he enjoys transcendental happiness in doing his service. He is immune to all reactions because he will accept whatever is given by them. So action in action, that is in spirituality, one is supposed to be doing nothing. And non-Krishna comes. So I'll just explain this little more here because action in action means we are actually doing the activity, but we won't incur reaction. That means we are doing the activity in Krishna consciousness. So activity is done, action is done, but there won't be any reaction. That is what we mean by action in inaction, right? And here, inaction in action means we are not doing any activity, but there is a reaction. That means actually there is a duty to be done, okay, but we are getting scared and we are not doing that work. So you have a reaction for it. So there are 4 meanings for karma. So you have to be very careful to understand in what context the Lord is saying. Karma can mean action in general. Karma can mean reaction to action. Many people will say, no, my karma, and karma idu. So they do that. Then karma can mean whole system of action and reaction, or can refer to one specific category or type of action. So there are difference depends upon the context. And there are 2 meanings for akarma. It could also mean no activity or no reactions to activity. Actually, so akarma, so that is the Sanskrit word, how to use. So these are the things which are be careful. So here, this is what is meant in this verse. I hope it's clear. Is there any doubt here? Hare Krishna. Because this verse is quite confusing. If you have any doubts, you can ask me.
Yeah, Mataji, what Hare Krishna Mataji? No activity means I understand work, activity done without reaction. That is but what does it mean? No activity.
No activity. See, when you say when you add R to karma, no? See, karma means activity, right? In Sanskrit, when you add before that, it becomes the negative, right? Like, I don't have any other, I don't remember others. In Sanskrit, when you add an R before that, it means opposite meaning. So when you say karma means activity, akarma means no activity. That is the general usage in Sanskrit. But here, what we mean is it could be no activity or it could be no reactions to activity. Depending on the context, we have to use the correct meaning. So when he says in the previous word, karmani akarma here, then akarmani cha karma. So one who sees inaction in action. That means you have done the activity, but there is no reaction in it. But You have not done the activity, but there is a reaction. Understand here?
Yes, Mataji. Both are different.
Both are
Yes.
different. So
Yes.
that means you are seeing a reaction. There is inaction. That is, there's no reaction when you are doing an activity. You might have done the activity, but there's no reaction because it's done in Krishna consciousness. Whereas you have not done any activity, but still you will incur reaction because you have not done it in Krishna consciousness. You are supposed to have done the work, but you are not doing it. You are refraining because you are scared. So that way you are also incurring reaction. So he says you have to be intelligent in trying to. That is why it confuses people. Even intelligent people are confused. Okay. So anything when you do for the Lord, any action you do for the Lord, it always has no reaction. Okay. It is spiritual. Otherwise, you have papa and you have punya activities. Fine.
Yes.
Okay. That is the thing. So what is the symptoms of people who do for that? So main characteristics, they work without attachment to that sense gratification because they are detached. And detached from what? Detached from fruits. Because they're doing for the Lord, they're not bothered about the success or failure. And they're satisfied and independent. Okay. And they have control, self-control over their mind and intelligence. Because we said, no, mind and intelligence are the ones which will pull you over the lusty desires, but they are. And they're free from the sense of proprietorship because they know they are not the owners of it. Okay. So they know it's all done by the law. And desires only bare necessities. Only for his maintenance, only he will desire for it. And the rest he will use whatever thing has been done, he will do work for the Lord. And is satisfied with whatever comes by providence with no endeavor. So, but if he gets anything, any grace, he'll think it is a grace from the Lord. Okay, he won't go and work for it. If the Lord gives it, he will accept it and say it's a grace. And freedom from duality. He can, because he won't bother whether to do this or that. Nothing can happen. All he is focusing is only to serve the Lord. And he's steady in success and failure because the fruits are the Lord's, no? So he won't. And he's free from envy. So these are the characteristics of a Krishna conscious person, the person who is doing in Krishna consciousness. This is what the Lord explains in the verses from 4.20, 21, 22, and 23. And is fully situated in transcendental knowledge. Such kind of work merges into transcendence. Absolute quality of a service. So you might so the Krishna explains clearly here what a Krishna person in Krishna consciousness, how they behave. Okay. And this will be their practicing stage when they will try to be devoid of desire for sense gratification. They won't work for the thing, they will work for the thing. And he said, a worker for whom the reactions of work are being burned off, because the jnana they have got, the perfect knowledge, has burnt up their reactions. This is one. This is their practicing stage. Okay. And they will try to attachment to this results of their activities. They are always satisfied and independent. And you won't engage in all the undertakings. So this is their sadhana stage when they will practice like that. And when they come to perfect stage, they acts with mind and think perfectly controlled. So they have a self-control over their mind and intelligence. And they'll give up sense of proprietorship over his possessions. They know everything, whatever they've got is the grace of the Lord. And he'll only act for bare necessities of life. Thus, working is not affected by the sinful reactions because he has surrendered to the Lord. Okay, that is a perfect stage. He who is satisfied with gain, which comes of its own accord, who is free from thing and does not envy, who is steady in success and failure, is never entangled, although he is performing actions. He'll be doing, and it looks like he's doing some work like an ordinary person, but his consciousness is not in that. He's not entangled in it. His consciousness is always with linked to the Lord. Okay. So he does not expect good or bad results in his activities. His mind and intelligence fully controlled because he knows he's a servant of the Lord. He's a part and parcel of the Lord and a part of the whole. It's not his own activity. It's only being done through him by the Supreme. See, like this is what happens when Arjuna, see, in the beginning, when he was saying, he was thinking why, he gave his reasons why he should not fight and all that. And then by the end of the Bhagavad Gita, what does he say? Now my doubts and illusions are gone. I have understood and I will do whatever you say. That means this activity was the same, the fighting was the same, but his consciousness changed. His consciousness was what now? He's going to fight for the Lord. Because the Lord has told that this is my plan and you have to fight. So he's doing for the Lord. He's not going to fight for his own sake. So that was the consciousness which changed. So a Krishna conscious person does not expect good or bad results. His mind and soul control. He knows he's part and parcel of the Lord and he is the servant. So he's just doing whatever the Lord wants him to do. When the hand moves, it does not move out of his own accord, because it's a part of the whole. So Krishna conscious person is always doubtful with the supreme desire, for he has no desire for personal sense gratification. So in this few verses, the Lord describes how the qualities and what the fully Krishna conscious person does. He is unattached to the modes of material nature. He is fully situated in transcendental knowledge, just entirely. Okay? Absorbed in Krishna. So to attain the spiritual kingdom, because he is doing everything for the Lord. So this is what is all about spiritual knowledge. It's not like what we get the material knowledge. Everything here, no, spiritual knowledge is not that easy to understand. You have to keep going and going. You have to experience it. You have to put it in practice. As the Lord, as now Prabhupada has given us the steps that you have to do the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. In the beginning, we may not see the results, but when we start practicing, doing the sadhana and sincerely, it's only sincerity and the devotion we have to the Lord, which will slowly give us the results. So this is what was there by the acharyas before us. And because of the sincerity and the devotion to the Lord, that they were successful. So we have to follow in that path. And this is how the symptoms are there, and these are the qualities which the people who are in the knowledge of the Lord behave. Such a person is said to be Krishna conscious. He is free from all dualities, contaminations of material worlds. Knowing his constant relation with the Lord, his mind is undeviated from Krishna. Whatever he does for the Lord. And for us, the best example is our Prabhupada. He was all the time in Krishna consciousness. He worked because he just had the spiritual master's order and he wanted to follow, and his whole consciousness was in that. And he never spared any moment. He wrote books and he preached and he set up this ISKCON for the people to be in this consciousness. Whatever he does for Krishna. And even by the end of this here, but he didn't have a single pie on his account. It was all for the Lord. All his works technically become sacrifice, as every sacrifice is satisfying Krishna. The resultant reactions to all such work certainly merge. So this is what. And you can only come out of this material bandha by akarma, by working for the Lord. So anything done in such way is called, that's what we say. See, another analogies Prabhupada gives, like, a cashier, when he receives or issues lakhs of rupees on behalf of bank, the moment he steals a penny, he is arrested because his job is to, but he doesn't own the money, the bank owns it. So whether you work on your own account or working on God's account, that's a difference. A soldier, when he kills the army in killing people in war, he is given a medal. But he goes and kills his neighbor as a personal reason, then he's arrested. That is the thing, right? So here, Arjuna fighting for Dharma Yuddha on behalf of God, whereas Duryodhana was fighting for his own selfish plan. So there's a difference here. He was working in Krishna consciousness, where this person was working as a vikar. Okay, so these are the examples which we have. So what we learn here is the power of knowledge by comparing to it. He says this knowledge is like a weapon which will clear our doubts. And it's like a light, deepena, it will remove ignorance. And it will burn up all our reactions, because once you understand this knowledge and then you act on it and you work, then all your reactions, sinful reactions, are burnt. And it's like a boat to cross material ocean. Okay. So far what we did, we understood that Krishna explained how the knowledge is explained, how it is given by parampara disciplic succession, and what is the benefit of this knowledge, and how people in Krishna conscious practice it and how they perfect it. That's what we learned so far. Okay. But how to receive it, we see it in the next coming verses. We'll do it tomorrow. Okay. So this is what we learned up till here. So tomorrow we are going to understand how to receive this knowledge, what this knowledge is all about, what is the benefits, and how to get. And also he talked about karma yoga, akarma and things. And then how to get this knowledge, what sacrifice. We have to sacrifice something, isn't it? Anything to attain, you need to do some sacrifice. How to get it. So that we see tomorrow. Okay. With this, Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhuvacha patita